Since I showed it off in a recent episode of Toycember, I thought it only fair we take a closer look at DArt's WarGreymon, just to give you a little bit more variety in my offerings for random review, at least for this month. Now, I will say I had a few people ask me what the difference is between the DArts and the Figuarts lines, and some even asking me which line they should buy a particular character in. It's the same toy line, guys. It's just a title. DArts was what they were calling everything that was video game based, but since then they've kind of dissolved pretty much anything that was any of the arts, etc., and it's just all SH Figuarts now. So this one is still marketed under DArts because that's when it was marketed first, and that's still what it says on the box on all the reissues. This one is the reissue of the original release. There's a designer's version with a different paint job. There's a movie version coming out with a very different deco and some new molding. So this is representative of the second run of the original. So let's take a closer look at WarGreymon. We're going to format things a little bit weirdly here, so we'll start with a look at the paint job. The head itself done up in this very awesome silver. Of course, you know I love Bandai's metallic paints. They always look exceptionally good. A few little black rings around the horns just to give it a nice bit of definition. I always like that. I always like how many little details get worked into the megaforms. Little grooves and lines and panels and all sorts of things. Red hair. Okay, I can go with that. You can see the anime eyes done up very well. You can see a little bit of the eye shine there, just to give you a little bit of that anime look. They're done up in a very nice little teal blue. They stand out from the helmet quite well. Looking down, we can see the armor itself is cast with a, well, actually I'm not sure what color the casting is done in because it's all painted over, all over this figure. But it's done up in this nice, kind of an ancient gold color. It doesn't have the same brightness or vividness that the gold paint from Bandai usually has. It's a bit of a subdued tone. It gives him a much more of a look of like natural armor. That same silver that we saw in the helmet does a lovely job on the armor for the chest. As well as now we can see some brown coming in here for all of this, what look like cables, or I guess in this case would just be rope binding the armor pieces together. So that's a nice touch. Like seeing that. We get a little bit more here on the spikes. Going farther down, more gold, more silver, and more brown. But we can now find the bands that are painted onto the wrists, presumably to hold the claws in place. The claws are probably one of the biggest points on the deco because they've been done up in chrome. This is a bit of a part that worries me, especially because they are such thin parts that stick out of the toys so much. This is a little bit prone to scrape and damage if you're handling it a little bit too quickly. Not to mention, sucker is sharp. Japanese toys don't really follow the same safety laws as US ones, so watch your fingers a little bit there. But going on, we can also start to find some actual molded plastic color, things that aren't painted, and we get this nice orange for the skin tone. Down toward the knees, again, silver, brown, wrapping all the way around for the brown on the cables, and white for the claws. Everything decoed really well, very nicely painted up. One of my favorite parts of the deco is the back shield, which has all this nice blue on the inside. It's really hard to see because the camera, my highlighting, can't quite get back there, but we can actually see the back where a big tampograph of the Crest of Courage is. And I'll go ahead and show you. The parts don't quite go together flush, but you can form a full crest if you line it up just right. That's a neat little touch. I like that. All right, so we saw the paint. It's extremely well painted. Everything is nice, crisp, and very well detailed. I didn't notice any major overspray, underspray, anything like that. No major details stood out to me as missing. So we can go in with a little bit of the sculpting here too. As I mentioned, there's a lot of little lines going all through the armor, and you can see all the way through this chest the pattern kept up. It's a very muscular chest too. Very solid looking, very very sturdy. He's swole. And you can also see a lot of molding through the side to give it. There's a little clasps going around, as well as these little ropes, just to give you a look of interconnected armor segments, which I quite like. One of the other details I like is going to be the strappings down the arm, all individually molded all the way around, individually painted buckles. A lot of attention to little details there. And you can also see his hand molded in, claws and all. Now, I will tell you, it is possible to remove these outer claws if you unpeg the hand from its ball joint. And I could show you. On the other side, you can find like knuckles, and it just looks like a normal hand. But it's really annoying to get back on, because in order to get it back on, the hand has to be inside here, and then you have to reconnect the forearm through this strap into the hand. It's annoying and would take quite a bit of camera time to get it back on. So we're just going to leave it as is. Sorry. The forearms themselves are actually a little bit shorter than I remember. I remember these the straps actually going like all the way to the top, whereas here they can be clearly seen above the top of the claw. It's a little bit of a compensation, as it were, because they are much longer in the original character design. They would have gone up to the elbows and restricted some articulation, I feel. So this is a bit of a compromise to make sure that the toy still functioned completely, and I can accept it for that. We got a lot of extra molding going through. The muscles, again, very well toned and detailed, all the little crevices and grooves going through. And I do like all the molding that goes into all these cables. They're all intertwined and all segmented, like little pieces of chain here and there, except it's cable, so that's technically not chain. So all the way around, again, it's D-Arts, but it's figure art standards. Like, the molding is great, the paint job is great, and that should technically mean the articulation is great too, right? Okay, so we can go in with that a little bit. We do have a ball-jointed neck, which has a full range of motion. There is one in the torso as well, but it seems like the only thing it can do is bob it up or down, which can give you some nuances to poses, but not a whole lot else. Oh well. The shoulders are actually universal joints, except on the inside there is also a ball joint inside the torso, which gives you all this range of motion, as well as a little bit of a rock to it. And then the universal motion, which works most of the shoulder. It's actually connected to this shoulder guard, so it actually can move in all directions, and this is never going to interfere. That's a nice little touch of engineering. Biceps have full rotation. Excellent. Elbows go beyond the 90-degree. They do get a little bit tied up to armor and the handguard, but nothing too terrible. There's also wrist articulation if you can actually use the wrist. It's ball jointed and hinged, just like any figure art wrist would be. Almost the exact same piece now that I think of it. See, we got ball jointed hips, and you do seem to be on a bit of a stem for extensions. All figure art seems like a little bit more restricted than usual. Good knee. Really good double jointed knee. That's nice to have. A thigh swivel. Also nice. The ankles are where things get a little bit weird too, because you can see the hinge there, which allows the ankle to go, it allows the foot to go up and down as well. And you have a ball joint there at the top of the ankle that allows your rotation. For the foot tilting itself, there's a ball joint way inside the foot. So that's where your rocking feet come in. Lot of strange little bits of articulation down there, but it all feels like it works, and nothing feels like it's going to give or break on me just because there's tiny little hinges for ankles down there. It all seems to go together pretty well and presents a pretty articulated figure. This is where I kind of get a little bit weird. He does have ball joints at the waist and the middle of the torso, which does allow stomach crunching. You know, you can raise up, as well as rotation on both sides. Though it's always kind of weird to align these things correctly when you just want a neutral pose, if you just want them to stand there. So that gets a little bit weird. As far as joint tolerances go, he feels fairly solid. Like there's a few parts, like I think the waist is a little bit looser than I would like, because because you can see just like how easily that kind of rocks around. But beyond that, I really don't have any issue. This is an extremely well articulated and well made figure. Despite how many times the mold's been put to use now, it seems like it all still works really well. WarGreymon, still an extremely cool character, extremely cool design, and this is really one of the best ones I've ever seen and played with. Now, we'll get to what else Figuarts would be known for, which is accessories, and this is the part where I'm a little bit... I'll be honest, I don't think I've ever done anything like this for a random review, just to make sure I can kind of get into the groove of what it takes to review a high-ish end action figure, at least as far as your standard 6-inch stuff goes. So I wanted to make sure this was a bit of an experiment, something a little bit simple, and what's simple is accessory count. That's it. That's all you really get. So I'll give you a close-up look. This is the beginnings of his Terra Force blast, which, if you've ever seen the original season Digimon, Terra Force is a pretty huge fireball. It's like throwing a flaming spirit bomb. It's kind of enormous. So obviously they can't create like one of those. You would like literally need like a beach ball that's translucent orange to inflate around it, which would have been a really cool pack-in accessory now that I think of it. It also doesn't have any kind of peg holes on it, doesn't have anything for a Tamashii stage to hold on to, and for him, he really just kind of relies on just holding it in place with the joint tightness, and it's a little bit hard to get him to actually hold it. I might be missing something, but nothing in the instructions told me that, this was wrong at all. One thing I will say, and one thing that I have run into as a problem on this toy, is these wrist guards are kind of problematic in that there's nothing really holding them in place other than how tightly it's being held on to the wrist by this little strap here. So I can kind of push everything up a little bit and get some friction going, but it quickly wears off. I really would have preferred if they were pegged in somehow. That way I could actually move them with confidence and they wouldn't wibble and wobble all the way around like they currently are. And yeah, this is why we have peg holes for things. Okay, so I can't get him to hold a little Terra Force blast. That's disappointing, but okay, so yeah. That's the only accessory he comes with. No additional hands, no additional weapons, no little tie to hang off of his shoulder. Nothing like that. So, he's a pretty, like, as far as, like, Figuarts, D-Arts, and all that goes, pretty simple little package. So, on the upside, not a lot to lose. On the downside, what you see is kind of what you get. But what you get is still an extremely cool representation of WarGreymon. I'd say if you can figure this, or if I say if you can find this on any normal site right now for retail, I'd say it's well worth it. It's made as well as any of the Figuarts I've seen, and the only, the flaws I can have, besides, like the guards being a little bit loose, needing a proper friction spot or a peg in, and this needing some kind of proper attaching point. Other than that, I'll give it one more shot here, because now it's bugging me. There are like little peg-in slots, so can I find a place where that pegs in? No, I cannot. Okay, so I will admit, like, I am not the most adverse at some of these, so I do miss things on occasion, but I try my best to include every little detail I can figure out on a toy. So, I do apologize if I miss something on occasion and bug people. Okay. There we go. Can we get it? Can we get it? Oh, come on, let me end the review on this. We're going long just because I'm rambling to save time and get this thing pegged in correctly. Oh, come on. It's not pegging in. Oh, come on. I've decrypted you. I've found out your secrets. Let me in. All right. Okay, so... All right, so I'm officially chalking up my disappointments with the toy. Only at the arm guards needed to be held on a little bit tighter. But beyond that, I guess he does everything he needs to do. And I am sorry to everyone who rushed to the comments to point out, you're missing the pagans on his claws and fireball. I found it, guys. So, that is what I think of DR's WarGreymon. It's a lovely figure. Very well done. I just need to find a beach ball for his proper Terraforce. So, that's the review. If it's out yet, go watch the death battle between him and Charizard. See who won, because if they allow evolutions, yeah. This guy could turn Charizard into chunky salsa. Yes, I said it.